Good evening. Welcome to the Coeur d'Alene City Council meeting of October 18th. The clerk will note that all council are present. Before I begin anything on the agenda, I wish to note that there was some misinformation provided to some neighborhoods about a hearing tonight on the Coeur Terre annexation, and that is not going to occur. That is at least a month away. So if you have come tonight to testify on that, we won't be hearing that information for at least another month. And there will certainly be plenty of notice when that annexation hearing actually begins to occur. Reverend Bond, David Bond with Compel Community Church, welcome, Pastor, and he's going to lead us in an invocation. Thank you very much for coming tonight.
My pleasure. Can we pray together? Heavenly Father, we just give you praise for this evening, Lord, and as it states in Romans 13, let everyone be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God. With that in mind, Father, I just come honored to pray and call on your presence to preside over this meeting this evening. Lord, I thank you for these councilmen and these councilwomen and the mayor and just the fact that they've set aside a part of their lives just to govern in such a way to see the city of Coeur d'Alene just become a city on the hill, a beacon of light, Father, and a desirable place for us to raise our families and a place for us to be proud of. Father, I pray that your graces and your mercies just be ever part of their evening as they make decisions, Lord. And I pray as they do that they would focus. And Father, if the Holy Spirit is speaking in a still small voice, that they would hear that voice as they make these decisions, Lord. And I pray, even as I read, that finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. I pray that be at the foremost part of their hearts and their minds when they make decisions. We want to honor and glorify you with all that we do. We love you and pray these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. And this evening, we're going to be led in the pledge by some Girl Scouts that are representing Eastern Washington and Northern Idaho. And Brian Newberry, their executive, their executive director, is going to bring them forward and lead us in the pledge. Welcome, girls.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members. Thank you, girls. We appreciate you. Can we have a round of applause for our amazing... I just want to say to everyone here, thank you for celebrating the Day of the Girl. October 11th every year is the Day of the Girl. And actually tonight, 6 city councils across Eastern Washington and Northern Idaho are right now celebrating our girls. And a decade ago, the United Nations said, we want to hear from you girls because you can make the world a better place. For our council, it's been the best year ever. We had over 1 million in cookie sales. You all helped with that. Thank you for distributing the cookie patches that I will send to you here in March. Councilwoman Miller even reached out for more patches. So I appreciate you doing that and also for wearing your sash tonight as well. But the bottom line on the matter, I heard that announcement come on. That wasn't here last year. I know it's tough times. We just need to work together, and we need more girls of courage, confidence, and character who are committed to make the world a better place. And with your help and with our community's help, we're going to double membership here in the next 2 years. You are my favorite city council. I'm supposed to be down in Tri-Cities tonight, but Mayor, you all started this about 3 or 4 years ago. Your predecessor said, come on down. So as always, I bring cookies as our parting gifts for your city workers. But most importantly, I leave you with all the good news that these Girl Scouts are the best in America and they make the world a better place. Thank you, Council.
Hang on for just a minute, Brian. First of all, do we have any amendments to the agenda?
No, sir.
Seeing none, we have a proclamation to
Oh,
read.
wonderful. Girls, enjoy this. This is for you.
Whereas October 11th, 2022 marks a decade since the United Nations adopted Resolution 66-170 to declare October 11th as the International Day of the Girl, to recognize girls' rights and the unique challenges girls face around the world. And whereas the world's premier leadership development organization for girls, Girl Scouts, has emphasized public service, civic engagement, and fostering a sense of community in girls for over a century. And whereas Girl Scouts work to champion the ambitions, cultivate the talents, and develop the skills of girls to be leaders in their own world. And whereas the International Day of the Girl focuses attention on the need to address the challenges girls face and to promote girls' empowerment and the fulfillment of their human rights. And whereas on the 10th anniversary of celebrating the specialness of girls, we're reminded more than 50 million women are Girl Scout alum as role models to the 1 million Girl Scouts that we now recognize and honor, the 1.1 billion girls across the globe who make the world a better place. Now, therefore, I, James Hammond, Mayor of the City of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, do hereby proclaim October 11, 2022 as International Day of the Girl.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
Mr.
Thank you
Mayor.
very much.
Now, I want to know, their grandparents are watching. Can we know their names?
Yeah.
I want your grandparents to see you on TV.
Can they just speak it out loud? Do you want to just say what your first name is and what school you go to? Go ahead.
I go to Holy Family. My brother's right there. And Pop Scouts with me.
Thank you, Melody, for the Holy Family. Thank you very much. And we've got, so one of our brownies and then our Daisy. May? Okay. Atlas Elementary, May. And so 2121, thank you parents for coming, is one of our newest troops. We've had over 60 new troops in the last year. We are back to our membership numbers of 2014, which most of these girls weren't born in 2014. So that's really awesome. Go ahead.
My name is Rachel and I go to Ramsey Elementary.
Okay, Ramsey Elementary, Rachel, nice to meet you. And our pledge leader, go ahead.
My name is Grace and I go to Dalton Elementary.
What was it, the school?
Dalton.
Dalton Elementary, Grayson. So, again, girls, you just have the mayor read a pledge for you, a proclamation for you. It's not for me, it's not for the audience, it's for you. We believe in you, girls.
Yay!
Thank you very much.
So adorable.
Just real quickly, we'll just do one more quick picture.
Didn't have girls, did
Look
you?
over,
No,
I didn't need, I have a boy. No, I only have a boy.
Oh, awesome.
right there, okay.
I'm gonna collect them all.
And one more at the gentleman.
Cover Wednesday's paper.
I know, I don't have anywhere to put mine.
I'm thinking,
Yep, all I have is a stinky boy.
I probably wouldn't get a patch for my
All I
ingenuity.
got.
Don't they iron on?
You mean you have to sew something?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council. Seriously, you are very, very special, and you do make the world a better place. Come on.
Bet you wish you had one of these.
Yeah. That is cool that you still have it.
That was my troop name, Shining Mountains.
It still fits.
Yeah, it still fits.
He's
When I
down.
was 10.
I do have another proclamation tonight. This is recognizing a challenge that we have in all of our communities. Whereas sudden unexpected infant deaths, SUID, is the sudden and unexpected death of an infant birthed to age 1 year in which the manner and cause of the death are not immediately obvious prior to investigation. And whereas sudden infant death syndrome is a subset of SUID and remains the number one cause of infant death between the ages of 28 days of life to 1 year. And whereas the tragedy of SUID can happen to any family, regardless of race, ethnicity, or economic group, and whereas during the month of October, Northwest Infant Survival and SIDS Alliance will hold events including Run for the Angels on October 8th at McEwen Park and distribute safe infant sleep educational pamphlets, cribs, and wearable blankets to families in need, therefore providing the best opportunity for all babies in Idaho to survive and thrive. Now, therefore, I, James Hammond, Mayor of the City of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2022 as Safe Infant Sleep Awareness Month. Is there anyone here to receive this tonight? Okay, thank you. We have a presentation by Erica Bowen on the I-90 corridor and all the wonderful things that are going to be happening over the next few years. Welcome tonight, Erica.
Hi, thank you, Mayor Hammond and council members. Well, thank you for letting me present to you today. I'm Erica Bowen. I work for the Idaho Transportation Department. I am a project manager managing the I-90 Washington State line to Sherman Avenue corridor study. So, as some of you may know, I-90 was constructed back in the 1960s, and there's been a few interchanges constructed since then, but really not much by way of improvements to the interstate. And so the goal of the I-90 corridor study is to evaluate and recommend steps to modernize the corridor itself, but we're looking at improving safety, adding capacity, and then looking at mobility needs as well for both the current travel demands that we have today, but also in the future. So for the future, we're looking at a 2045 planning horizon. Now, improvements on I-90, those things include more lanes to accommodate growth. We've got a 2-lane facility right now. We're looking at widening I-90 to 3 lanes and possibly 4 lanes in some sections over the next 20 years. Ramps on and off the interchange. So we're going to do ramp improvements to improve those geometrics, give you better merging on and off the ramps, and then provide better visibility with those adjacent cars. All these improvements certainly improve response times for crashes. We're also looking at better access to local roads in a variety of these improvements. And then one of the things that ITD recognizes is that I-90 cuts a lot of the communities, Coeur d'Alene and then Post Falls as well, north and south with the bicycle and pedestrian facilities. On US 95, we don't even have bike and ped facilities. So with any of the improvements that we will be designing and building in the future, all of those, whether they're interchanges, whether they're local roads that we need to touch and make improvements on, we'll be updating all of the bike and pedestrian facilities to meet current city standards. So just a quick project overview graphic. As I mentioned, the corridor study is this big yellow line spanning from Washington State line all the way over to Sherman Avenue to the east of Coeur d'Alene. Now this is 15 miles. We're analyzing 10 different interchanges. We're looking at multiple bridges. So we're looking at all the overpasses, underpass structures. Do they meet current and future needs? And with all of this, again, it's looking at that 2045 traffic volume horizon. Today, depending on what segment you're at, within these 15 miles, we've got about 60,000 vehicles that travel through here on a daily basis. By 2045, we're going to double. That's what the CAMPO traffic model says. So we really need to be cognizant that people are coming, and how do we make sure that we get ahead of it? As you're driving down I-90, you already see there is some congestion. We've got some ramps that certainly see congestion, and so the Idaho Transportation Department is committed to looking at what do we need to design for the future. Key locations that we've been studying is from the Washington State line to Spokane Street. Really, the interchanges at Pleasant View and Beck Road function just fine. Some minor ramp improvements we'll be making. We're just looking at I-90 mainline improvements. From Spokane to State Highway 41, we've been working with the Post Falls area to see what do we do particularly about that Saltese Way interchange. It's only a half interchange, so how do we give better accessibility to that community? And I'll speak to a little bit more on a few slides. State Highway 41, you see that's a big circle. If you've been on the interstate within the last couple weeks, you've noticed orange barrels and cones out there. So State Highway 41 interchange was previously studied by the Idaho Transportation Department, also for a 2045 planning horizon. And so construction of that started this year and is anticipated to go for another 2-3 years. So what we are doing in our study for the mainline improvements works really well with what is being built at State Highway 41. From 41 through, I would say, 4th Street, we're looking at a combination of mainline improvements, plus we need some improvements at Northwest Boulevard, US 95, and 4th Street to those interchanges. Once you get past 4th Street, the traffic drops off pretty substantially. And so at 2045, you actually don't need to widen I-90. Past east of 4th Street, but we are looking at some geometric concerns and safety concerns at both the 15th Street interchange and at the Sherman Avenue interchange. And so we've been looking at those and making some recommendations for future improvements. So as I mentioned for timeline, right now we're in the corridor study. We started last summer. And we are going through looking at the traffic analysis. We've been doing lots of stakeholder input and stakeholder gathering through a variety of workshops and one-on-one meetings. We really want to make sure this is a systemic improvement to the system that looks at all the different varieties of needs out there. We've been drafting some recommendations. We had a couple value planning studies over the summer to really hone into a couple different solutions. And so right now we're in the developing initial project concepts. And so I've got a couple slides further, but our next big stakeholder outreach is in November. We're going to do 2 open houses to gather public comment on what's being recommended as solutions, the alternatives that we're presenting, and see what really makes the most sense for the community, that we can push those designs forward and design to them. As for design and construction, so between State Highway 41 and Northwest Boulevard, that has the highest traffic volumes today and is projected to just keep on increasing into the future. We already know, due to traffic analysis, that we need 4 lanes in between those 2 sections. And so in parallel to doing this corridor study, we also started the design of widening I-90 between State Highway 41 and US 95 in May. So we're about 4 months into it already. That is just mainline widening. It doesn't include the interchanges at 41 or Northwest Boulevard or US 95. We will be reconstructing the bridges at Hutter, Atlas, and Prairie. All those bridges need to be widened to accommodate a widened I-90 facility. For any design and construction projects, about 2 to 3 years to design. So with this I-90 widening project, we're looking at actually being ready to go to construction in 2024. We don't have funding for it yet, but this is a priority project for the department, and so we're fairly confident that by the time 2024 rolls around, ITD will figure out how to fund this. This is one of the TECM projects for ITD, so TECM stands for Transportation Expansion and Congestion Mitigation. So this corridor, I-90, has been identified as a priority for the department and for the legislature. And so there is certainly funding going towards this corridor. We want to make sure this first design project goes through, and then we continue to design projects after that until we can get to the full 15 miles. So I mentioned stakeholder engagement. So we had 2 value planning sessions over the summer, one to focus on the Coeur d'Alene area, and so that was looking at Northwest Boulevard, US 95, and 4th Street. We had members from Parks and Rec, from the school district, we had members from the city itself, and we all came together for an entire week, and we really thought hard about what works to meet the capacity demands. And so I'm not sure if you're familiar with a single point urban interchange, but that's where instead of your ramps being separated, you pull everything into the center and you have one signal. It's a higher capacity interchange. If you've ever been to Boise, as soon as you get off the airport, you actually go through one of those. Really efficient. And what we found during the value planning session is having a SPUI there actually gets you to a capacity beyond 2045. So that fits a longer planning horizon need. In the Post Falls area, we actually didn't come up with a single solution there. There's two that are very feasible and both work, but vastly different. And so in particular, we're looking for public comment in that area. The first alternative that the team came up with is Celtice Way is a half interchange. Let's just reconfigure it. When you reconfigure it to be a full interchange, Spokane Street interchange works as well with some minor configuration to it, but nothing major, and very minimal right-of-way impacts. We're able to stay within the ITD's right-of-way. Alternative two, I wouldn't say we went a little crazy, but we got innovative, right? We came to the meeting and we said as a team, what if we remove Celtice Way interchange altogether? What if you break Celtice Way and realign it with Polston and with 4th Street? What would happen there? And so we came up with a feasible option that actually has interchanges at Spokane Street. We'd add an interchange at Idaho Road and then another one at Syringa. And so you have 2 today, you'd get 3 in the future potentially if this is the alternative that's preferred. The value of having this alternative is it certainly provides better access to the locals, but within the traffic model, it shows that the traffic volumes on the local roads decreases substantially. A lot of them go on to a side, we call it a collector distributor road on I-90, and it takes a lot of those traffic volumes down. So the city of Post Falls might be able to consider some road diets, adding extra bike lanes or sidewalks or other items like that, reducing lanes on some of their local roads because of how the traffic gets redistributed with that alternative. Throughout the quarter study, and then as we're going forward with our design projects, we'll have ongoing stakeholder meetings and presentations. The next big one is the open house. So we have 3 open houses planned for November. The first is in Post Falls, Tuesday, November 1st at Red Lions Templin Hotel. Is from 4 to 7. The second one's in Coeur d'Alene on November 2nd at the Best Western from 4 to 7. The display boards, the roll plots, all the information we're presenting is exactly the same at either open house. It's just that we have a 15-mile corridor and we wanted to make sure we were close enough to different stakeholders so that we were easily accessible to everybody. If you can't make it to one of the open houses in person, we will have everything displayed virtually on our project website starting November 1st through the 15th. And so I would encourage you, if you can't make it to the open house, certainly go to the website. There's an online survey on it with feedback for all the different recommendations and alternatives, which we have many more than besides the ones I spoke to you today. We're just really excited. So this is the next step, the open house. We gather everyone's feedback. We use that information to help guide us and inform us of what the preferred alternative is for I-90. And then we will move forward with that, completing that corridor study, and then start working through design of additional phases. With that, I really appreciate your time for me to present. And like I said, we're just excited about the project and really encourage you and the citizens here in Coeur d'Alene to come see us at the open house, either in person or virtually.
Thank you very much. Woody, you have a question?
To ask a question. I'm a bridge freak. How would you fix a bridge and still keep it open? How do you make it bigger or wider or deeper? How does it keep functioning like 95?
So on I-95, or on US 95, in looking at those bridge designs, so with a spooey structure, the bridge is actually really, really wide due to all of the additional turning movements that are coming in. And so what you would do is you'd have to do phase construction. During any of the construction of like Northwest Boulevard or US 95 or 4th Street, you have so much traffic going over these, we cannot close them down completely.
Right.
So it's phase construction. So you build half of the bridge offset and then maneuver traffic around. Now traffic lanes might be reduced. So you might be down to 1 lane in both directions rather than the 2 lanes that you currently have today on 95. So that's how we would do it. You'd build half of the structure, you would move all the traffic over to that half, and then you tear down the first half of the structure and start building again.
So you don't add on to bridges, you rebuild them completely.
So with the interchange, we do rebuild completely. There are structures that we're looking at, such as the bridge over the Washington state line, the Spokane River. That one, it is possible, we're still looking into it, that we might just be able to widen the bridge.
Okay.
And so with the bridge engineers, they'll look at girders, how do you incorporate them into the original bridge structure. But with the Spokane River Bridge, we would, if we need to widen, we certainly don't want to rebuild the whole structure.
But something like 95 would be a rebuild.
Correct.
Okay,
Yep.
thanks.
Anything else? Thank you very much for coming today.
Yep.
We have a second presentation regarding an APA Idaho Outstanding Plan Award. Welcome, Hillary.
Well, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and council members. So I am here before you this evening just to give you a brief presentation on the award that the City of Coeur d'Alene received from the Idaho chapter of the American Planning Association for our comprehensive plan. We were awarded the Outstanding Plan Award by this APA Idaho at the annual conference a few weeks ago in Garden City. The awards program includes 6 award categories, and it is a competitive process. There's nominations submitted. This year there were 15 nominations that were submitted and evaluated. There are a number of criteria that they're ranked by. So first is originality and innovation, transferability, quality, comprehensiveness, public participation, implementation strategy, effectiveness and results, and integration. The Outstanding Plan honors a written plan that advances the science and art of planning or brings awareness of the benefits of good planning. The award seeks to recognize excellence in planning for livability and sustainable communities with public engagement and realistic goals. Eligible nominations encompass plans of many types, including but not limited to comprehensive plans, strategic plans, transportation, energy, etc. The Envision Coeur d'Alene process provided the opportunity to update multiple plans, as you're aware. As the City of Coeur d'Alene, we updated our comprehensive plan and worked with our partners at CDA 2030 to update their vision and implementation plan. And what we resulted in is a robust and living citywide document that is rooted in extensive community involvement and, of course, analysis that provides the benefit of the community plan that meets all the state statute requirements and also has the expanded implementation strategies. It was really important for the city moving forward. So we are very proud of our new comprehensive plan that was community-driven, and this plan really provides the guidance and specificity that I believe that both the Planning Commission and City Council have been looking forward to, especially with the future land use map and the action items. So Mike Beharry and I both attended the conference in Garden City and received the award, and here it is in person. So kind of a cool one. They were created by a local artist in the Garden City area. And I will show a very brief video, see if it launches on its own.
The award-winning Envision Coeur d'Alene project was a partnership between the City of Coeur d'Alene and CDA 2030 to put together a comprehensive plan both on the city's part and on CDA 2030's part to build a brighter future for the City of Coeur d'Alene. Thousands of community members came together over a 27-month time frame to form the vision for the City of Coeur d'Alene.
We involved CDA 2030, which is the nonprofit community visioning organization, to develop a robust community engagement effort. And we also hired MIG because they have some creative strategies for community engagement. One thing that also was unique was involving the Coeur d'Alene tribe in the process throughout from the very beginning and developing a land acknowledgement statement for the tribe. We'd like to thank CDA 2030, MIG, and their subconsultants, of course our mayor and city council and planning commission for all of their efforts, our community advisory committee and 6 focus groups, the Coeur d'Alene tribe, and of course the citizens who were involved in providing their input and vision for our future. And lastly, APA Idaho for selecting us for the Outstanding Plan Award.
Nice.
And just wanted to thank you, Mayor and Council, for your leadership and support and all the time you dedicated to helping us through this 27-month intensive process, and wanted to congratulate you on an award-winning plan.
Well, congratulations to you and to your
you.
staff as well.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Patterson.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, sir.
Does the council have any announcements? Christie?
Just one, Mr. Mayor, the Atlas Project RFP Scoring Committee met today to score 2 proposals that were for areas 14 and 15. We have developed a recommendation that is going forward to the Ignite Board for consideration tomorrow night.
Kiki?
I have 5. One is the Regional Housing and Growth Issues Partnership website is being updated this week. So there has been about 7 additional success stories, action things that you can go to and get caught up on what's happening with that group. That weekly update is still being posted there about every 7 to 10 days. It's very brief, and it's a way to keep tuned in as to what is happening with that. And there's a lot. One of the subcommittees of that group is the resident-owned communities. You've been hearing some information in the newspaper about mobile home parks and folks like that, and that group has grown into a much larger coalition now. They're doing a resource fair on November 5th here in the library community room, and they'll be bringing together information for anyone who's a tenant or an owner of a mobile home park in Kootenai County on how a transfer can happen, where it's a win-win for everyone, as well as having vendors there that can provide resources to some of these folks who have been kind of caught into a housing crunch with raised lot rents recently. So that's going on. This Friday, as you guys remember us discussing during budget CDA 2030's funding, and I had mentioned that we've been working with the Housing and Growth Issues Partnership to have them begin taking on the mission of the work that I've been doing for about, it feels like a long time, year and a half, close to 2 years. And so this Friday, Greta Gissel, who is the CDA 2030 current executive director and has been working on the rebrand and the rename and the expansion of that group with other cities so that we have one larger regional envisioning group, is on a panel called Navigating Growth with some other experts, and will be her first launch into discussing housing and growth issues with the community, and that's in and the Coeur d'Alene Chamber of Commerce. So that's this Friday. And just interestingly, had some great discussions today at North Idaho Building Contractors Association joint government meeting.
Business is going to park, but where are the employees going to park? It's just going to get worse unless we address it. I would prefer the developers pay for it. If this council chooses not to go in that direction, then the taxpayer will have to build another parking garage, or no one's going downtown. That was my point. The second thing I'd like to clarify is a lot of people will say, council has decided this or that. Unless you see a meeting here that's been noticed in the public and that has an agenda item on it where we voted, that's when we've made a decision. Otherwise, if you hear someone say, council has decided, it's just talk, okay? We haven't decided anything. So it happens here. This is where you see the decisions, just to let people know. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? All right. Then we have several appointments. I have looked at all those applications and feel comfortable in recommending these appointments to you.
You going to read the names?
No?
Someone has to read the names.
No. Appointing to the student representative Adeline Smith and Claire Swanby to the Arts Commission, Talia Jones, Anna Betts to Child Care Commission, Lily Givens to the Library Board, Henry Depew to the Pedestrian and Bike Safety Advisory Group, and Zachary Robert Turner to CDA TV Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Hear the motion, the second. Any further discussion? All those in favor respond with aye.
Aye.
Those opposed with nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Next before us is a consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move for approval of the consent calendar as presented, including Resolution 22050.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion on the motion. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I see there's an item here in the, on the consent agenda for Leaf Fest. Will there be a presentation, Troy, on Leaf Fest?
Would you like a presentation on Leaf Fest?
Well, usually we do, but I didn't know if there was going to be or this was it, because if this is it, I mean, it'd be nice to give people a heads up as to
No,
what's
we can
coming.
have a presentation in your first meeting in November.
Perfect, thank you so much. The other thing I'd like to talk about, it's on the consent, is with the wastewater treatment facility, or is buying an RV for $259,000, which I don't think is routine, but it's on the consent calendar anyway, and I think it's kind of cool. So I'd like to ask Mr. Anderson to tell us a little bit about his new vehicle. Thank you.
Well, thank you for asking. I love talking about wastewater. And I'd love to tell you it's an RV, but really it's more a $250,000 hose is really what it is. It's our most used piece of equipment. This is a 2022 sewer cleaner truck. So I know that's kind of a misleading name. You kind of wonder, what the heck could a sewer cleaner truck be doing? Cleans the sewer. So we've got 220 miles or so of pipe in the city, and this is the vehicle that we use most often, probably 85% of the time are out there using it to clean the sewer. So yeah, it's really just a hose on a truck that puts out about 2,500 PSI of water. We use it to spray out all the pipes. As I heard a recent presentation from KMPO about crowding on the streets, and it got me thinking, we got the same thing in the wastewater pipes. The more people that come here, the more crowded our wastewater pipes get. So to make sure that there's no backups, to keep the congestion down, we use this truck to get in there and clean that out. So it's got a lot of nice little benefits that we happen to like, such as a little plexiglass screen as we're pulling up this hose out of that pipe. You can imagine I didn't want to go into detail on it, but you can imagine how dirty that is. So there's some small little advantages like that as compared to our current one.
Cool. So, and this was a no bid, or was there bidding on this, or is it like only one person makes such an interesting vehicle?
Right. No, so there are many vehicles out there, and this was bid on. This was done through a company called Sourcewell. So it was bid on at the state level, which could get a much better, or a much broader reach at least than the city of Coeur d'Alene can get. So we were able to piggyback on top of a state bid and get what we feel is a pretty good deal.
So something you use a lot, is that just because in certain parts of the city, or is it everywhere, or is this something that's just happens to sewer pipes?
Well, we happen to have two of these vehicles. This one's a little bit smaller, and we like it because it can get into the downtown areas and things like that, where we've got those small little streets. So it really is just a lot easier to maneuver. It's got to be 10 feet shorter than our larger vehicle. Sometimes we need the larger vehicle to get into those really deep pipes and things like that, or deep wet well, some of our areas that need cleaning. But yeah, this one is just, it's much more efficient. We can get more done in less time.
So is it routine that, something that you regularly schedule, that's just the nature of your business?
At least 4 days a week, this truck is out on the streets. So, yeah, look for it on the street near you.
Should I be proud if it doesn't need to show
You
up?
could maybe Dan can do a ride-along.
Yeah, we'd be glad to have you. Just wear your PPE.
Like hazmat materials?
Yeah, wear your PPE.
I have a question, if I could. How long do these trucks last? How often do you have to replace them?
This truck is 10 years old. If you'll recall, about 2 months ago, we had to replace some bearings on a truck. That was this truck, on that exact reel that reels up. It's not a small hose, it's quite a large hose. And that was to the tune of several $1,000s. It's just, we're having to put money into this truck pretty consistently at this point. So we try to make our heavy equipment last 10 years, if not longer. But being that this is the most used piece of equipment, it made it to 10 years, but it's not going to want to go any farther. When we're done with it, we have yet to figure out what we're going to do with it, but we'll see if it's of use within the city before we go getting rid of it outside the city.
Thanks.
Pretty cool.
I would also just like to add one small item that all the stuff that we get out of that pipe goes to the treatment plant, which gets turned in Coeur d'Alene compost, which this Friday, I don't know if you guys have seen, I know I don't want to talk about inflation, but pumpkins are really expensive. And we are giving away free pumpkins, but with conjunction with the library this Friday starting at 8 a.m. So if you want a free pumpkin. grown in Coeur d'Alene compost.
Mike, that's the best garden I've ever had this year. It's unbelievable.
Cool.
So it's all foreground stuff, clearly.
It's such a feel-good thing. This has been a feel-good meeting, and I love those feel-good stories. Thank you.
One question on the pumpkins. Actually rode the bike by a lot and was kind of worried about the harvest there this year. Maybe the leaves covered, but have we got a good harvest?
Yeah, it's a little bit thinner this year. We got a little bit later start on the planting, but yeah, all the leaves have started to die off now. But the pumpkins, which hopefully only makes it easier to harvest. So we're going to be harvesting them tomorrow. We're hoping for 2 trailer loads and get them out here. My time's up. Thank you.
Thank you. Will the clerk take the roll, please?
Wood?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Miller?
Aye.
McEvers?
Yes.
Gookin?
Yeah.
English?
Yes.
Motion carries. Public comments. We have some folks signed up for public comment. The first one is Mike Gridley. Is that it?
Who is that guy?
Right.
Close enough, Mayor. Good evening.
Mike.
You might remember me. I was a city employee for almost, 20 years. And there's some things I've wanted to say to you guys for quite a while.
3 minutes.
Yeah. And, but I didn't feel comfortable saying it. So here I am. And I wasn't here last week, but you guys are awesome. You guys are great. This place is so amazing. The Reverend, I think, summed it up well, that such a well-run place. And that includes you, your predecessors, Mayor Hammond, Mayor Widmeyer, Mayor Bloom, just great council members, great people, have done all these great things. One of the reasons I came was because last week, when I wasn't here, I heard urban renewal was being discussed. And during my time here, urban renewal has been such an amazing tool. And I think a lot of people just think a lot of these projects have just been here or just came about, but don't realize it was because of urban renewal. The library we're sitting in wouldn't be here. McEwen Field, all the public art. The engine warehouse. You remember the engine greasy warehouse that sat in City Park? We got rid of that through funding with urban renewal. The education corridor, still a work in progress. The Prairie Trail. Of course, the Kroc Center was one of the first big wins, and that was connected to getting the Prairie Trail done. Celtice, I was driving on Celtice today, and then I remembered, wow, that got money from Ignite. It was an old rabbit trail out there, and now it's great. And then, of course, Atlas Park. So Ignite has done such a great job. Tony Burns and his board are amazing. They've just done amazing things. And so one of the things I thought about, too, is the old Elks building. There was some question about, does Ignite create jobs? And I think they've done an excellent job of creating the setting that bring people for jobs. The old Elks building was derelict for years. Now it's the Innovation Den. It's a waiting list for people to get office space in there. And the people in there aren't just drinking coffee. They're in there innovating, being entrepreneurs, and doing cool stuff. That would not have happened without Ignite and their development of a lot of the cool things here downtown. So Jake, my dog, and I went to Atlas Park, the dog park, Sunday. And of course, it's a beautiful day, thanks to staff for arranging the weather. And he wanted to say, do I have only 14 seconds left? Sped that up. Anyway, he gave me this card, and it says, woof, woof. Bark, bark, woof, bark, bark, woof, woof, bark, 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 paw print, a couple tail wags. I ran that through Google Translate, and it says, Dear City Council, thank you for the great dog park. I had fun and met a lot of other nice dogs. Sincerely, Jake Gridley. P.S. I hope you always have a nice place to poop and pee and hang out with friends.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your
Mr. Mayor, I'd also like to point out, since you were the city attorney, but yet I think you played a really big role in the Atlas and the whole thing. I mean, I think you lobbied for it heavily. I think you were really instrumental. I mean, first, the railroad line through there was I think, the first thing you did, you helped us with. But also just the whole park thing, because I know that there were other plans and other directions they wanted it to go, but I think you were very instrumental in getting that off the ground.
Well, thank you, but I was just part of a team, Troy and
there's the
Randy and
modesty.
everybody else in the council. You know, we can't do anything without you guys. Thumbs up, so.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Justin O'Connell?
Good evening, Council. I hope you're doing well. Great news. Thanks to our comprehensive plan, the city has been awarded the American Planning Association's Outstanding Plan Award. Great work. The American Planning Association, the APA, is a long-term partner of Central Planning. I'm actually the reporting agent for this city. The award was actually issued on my recommendation. It's important to note the APA is an extremely American organization, extremely. The APA's board includes such accomplished Americans as Deborah Lawler. Wait a second, she's Brit. That's right, I remember now. I was at the ceremony where she was knighted by the Queen. It was beautiful. It was much better than Kevin Spacey's. Anyway, okay, whatever. So what if the APA has been a partner of the United Nations since at least 1997? So what if the APA is the UN's main planning partner for the Sustainable Development Goals? So what if they need local implementation to achieve, in particular, Goal 13, quote, take urgent action to combat climate change? So what if the UN and the APA are partners, and the APA accredits and trains the planners in our planning department? Deny it. What do you think Central Planning hands out these awards for? To make everyone feel a part of the team. Why do you think we have bike racks smack dab in the middle of downtown nobody uses? It makes no sense. So it is us, Central Planning, who requires through the state, the city, to have this outstanding plan for which we are now awarding you tonight in the first place, the Outstanding Plan Award. Or else we'd sue you. Lawsuit, award, it's kind of binary. The central planning thing, it's an easy sell. Traffic, dwindling open space, high cost, environmental degradation, which we blame on capitalism. It was us all along, the central planners, our crony capitalist partners too. We built Los Angeles, we built New York, Philadelphia, and they're doing great. Los Angeles is running out of water. They're kind of dystopic, but that's not real planning. We're doing the real planning here, the real good planning. Now, I have to conclude with a couple announcements. World Town Planning Day is happening next month. It's a special day to recognize and promote us, so I hope we can get that on the calendar. Also, I'd like to extend an invitation to the City Planning Department to the World Urban Forum. It's the premier global conference on our version of urbanization. This past summer, it was in Poland. I believe next year it's in Kyiv. We're working on some creative, sustainable urbanization strategies there, the planners are. Now, we'd like to give your planners a sneak peek on that. Now, maybe we can get that in the budget. So anyway, if anyone asks about the knowledge problem where it's argued that planners only know the explicit and articulate knowledge, maybe it's quantitative, for instance, but they can't know the ever-important implicit knowledge, and thus planning is an exercise in futility if they start bringing up variables, unknown variables, the future, random events, all sorts of things like this. Just call them racist, please. Thank you.
Sarah Lynch?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm Dr. Sarah Lynch. I'm a resident of Hayden. I'm new to the Northwest Idaho region. I just retired from the Air Force in 2019. And I'm speaking today because I want to thank you for opening up the council meeting invocation to a wider breadth of faith organizations that's more reflective of the array of beliefs I know we have here in the Coeur d'Alene area. It's been an interesting transition for me from the military to living here in North Idaho, and I've often been taken aback over the last few years by the lack of tolerance and the toxic behavior exhibited at our various meetings for local governance. Ironically, tolerating and embracing difference and the ability to conduct a civil conversation are things that I'm learning that the military actually was setting the example in. But I appreciate your effort to set the tone for allowing all voices to be heard through your decision about the divination. As a queer person of faith, I'm sincerely grateful for your efforts to create a more inclusive environment, and I look forward to the opportunity to observe and participate in the multitude of blessings that are now made possible by your leadership. So thank you for that, and thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, and thank you for your service.
Absolutely.
And Sarah, welcome. Welcome to North Idaho.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Susie Snedeker. Welcome, Susie.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. Oops. Sorry. Of course, I have public comments. I know you'd miss them. I was going to comment about the lack of art maintenance on the fountain outside, but I've noticed that somebody cleaned it up and you can kind of see the bottom of it, yeah. That's a bonus. Hopefully, they'll keep cleaning it. There was a time when residents, owners and renters, had pride in their properties and made sure the sidewalks and gutters were clean, weed-free, and commercial business parking lots swept and weed-free as well. Driveways and alleys were used rather than simply driving over the curb and parking wherever convenient in residential areas. I wonder how many of you drive through the city to familiarize yourself with the community you represent, all the different areas. I know that when it's election time, a lot of times we see areas we wouldn't see otherwise. Or do you simply go your usual routes, as do all of us? I would hope that you would take the time to go through your neighborhoods and see the changes in those neighborhoods, honor what is going on in the community, and especially in this historical heart of town. In 2007, according to council minutes, and don't ask why I kept it, John Pruning, as chair of Planning and Zoning, and I, as a Planning and Zoning Commissioner and chair of the Design Review Committee, asked the mayor and council to hire a consultant to review downtown heights, parking, zoning, lighting, etc. As we know, height regs are too late for the downtown. At that same meeting, I cited the need for affordable housing. Years later, affordable housing, more importantly, affordable rents for most, remain an unresolved issue. Could the city have considered requiring affordable units in the multi-story high-rises or large apartment complexes or entry-level houses in the last remaining large development parcels? They could have. For those that are already going through the planning process or approval process, I think it's a bit too late. It's unfortunate. The city had the ability to do that and didn't. Years ago, the city downsized parking requirements for development downtown. Once again, I think that both Art Williams, who owned the Flamingo Motel, and I addressed the issue. Both of us thought it was short-sighted. Well, short-sighted it was and continues to be. All the city has to do is change its ordinance to provide adequate on-site parking for developments downtown. I would also like to see absolutely no reducing requirements for any reason by anyone. A high-rise that does not provide on-site public parking, while possibly beneficial for the development, may not be so beneficial for the downtown community. It doesn't require a consultant and thousands of tax dollars and months of studies to figure this out. Please just do it. You may or may not remember that on occasion I have asked the mayor and council to demand board chairs of the nonprofits requesting and/or gifted public funds appear at a council meeting to accept their gift. Sending an employee is absolutely unacceptable. The board member or the chair of the board familiarizes the public taxpayers with the business and those responsible for the oversight and accountability of those businesses. The council owes the public accountability and transparency when gifting hard-earned tax dollars to nonprofits. The reason I mention this is because last week, another embezzlement. Nobody knew who they were. So, that being the case, happy Pumpkin Day, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Susie. Bonnie? Budget adjustments for the 22-23 budget?
Good evening.
Looks similar, doesn't it?
Okay, wrong one.
F5.
Tonight I'm looking for approval of a few adjustments to the 22-23 budget. I have one slide, so this will be real quick. The approval of the police department contract included an 8% COLA. The budget included a 5%. The difference in cost is $518,000. The 6% COLA in the fire department contract is an increase of $73,000, and a slight increase to their VIVA benefit is an increase of $13,000, for a total budget increase of $605,000. The recommendation to cover the majority of these increases is to eliminate 5 new positions that were included in the 22-23 budget. These positions include a communications specialist in admin, an IT technician in municipal services, an applications analyst in the police department, heavy equipment operator in the street department, and an electrician apprentice in the street department. Another $193,000 would also be needed from the fund balance to cover the increases. I am open to any questions.
Questions? Yes, Dan?
Well, I wonder if you factored in the unanticipated revenue from the urban renewal. I think we just got notice today at the urban renewal board meeting tomorrow that we'll be approving. I think the city's share of that is right, just a shade under 500,000.
Correct. That's one-time money, though, and these
Yes.
are all, this is all ongoing. And it will increase again next year as we have COLAs set up already for fire and police. So it's nice that that will be there and will get us through a year, but it's not going to continue on getting us through after that.
Correct, but it will get us through this year. I guess, as far as just carving out those positions, I guess, well, I'll look forward to the rest of the discussion, because there's some ongoing needs, and of course, fund balance, we know we can't take from that forever, so either, but anyway, I just wondered if that was factored in.
Christie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bonnie, what is the percentage amount at our fund balance right now?
Oh, I'm not positive. We ended last year really well. It was over, I think, around 24%. I don't know what this year's, I believe will go up just because there's so many police positions that have not been filled. And
So-
if the police positions continue to not be filled, we probably won't have any issues, but if they ever get fully funded, that fund balance is going to start dropping very quickly.
Well, we certainly hope they're filled, but my experience is it takes a tremendous amount of time to fill those positions, and there's just constant movement and attrition at the police department.
This year, I'm not concerned at all about expenses this year because we are sitting very well. It's into the future. We don't have any way to increase what we're bringing in. So once the fund balance is gone, and we have, contracts now going out next year that will increase that, and even with new growth, we don't have enough coming in to cover those increases.
My experience has been most fund balances for any government entity, they recommend around 16%, but we're at 24, so we have quite a bit of wiggle room there. I understand the ongoing money, but I guess I'd like an explanation on this year's tax receipts, and if there's any idea or any forecasting coming from Boise for next year.
For tax increase?
Sales
or for
tax.
The sales tax. They did give us an estimate, yes, and it was fairly high, which we did incorporate into this budget. So basically, it's incorporated in here. It's been used for the things that we have in here that are ongoing. I don't believe it will increase that much again the next year to cover those things that we have increasing into the next year, especially if we do end up in a recession.
And I'll come back later, too. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm noticing that it says 193,000 in fund balance, but I just looked over in the financials that you provide in our consent calendar on page 26, if anyone else is following along at home, that the police was, just for their personnel services, was $1.3 million under budget. So that's some fund balance that can be used from the police department. But I also am curious about, and this might be more of a question for Troy or Renata, we had discussed earlier on council increasing our event fees. How is that progressing?
We are looking at that as an opportunity for the fee increases to come forward. Right now, I wouldn't say that it's going to generate another $193,000 or anything of that magnitude, but we're looking to partner. As we had discussed, we'd bring forward contracts with the chamber and contracts with the Downtown Association, the two biggest groups that use our resources during the summer.
Okay, because I was going to say that's another revenue source that would be ongoing if we can get those fees up to help pay for the public safety that's being used. That would be another.
Yeah, that's a pretty small amount when you're talking $605,000 increase.
But it's something.
It's tiny something.
Thank you.
Well, in our current budget, there are some capital expenses that are one-time expenses. And so I will be visiting with our folks about taking a look at what capital expenses we have in our current budget that are one-time expenses and how we might use that additional funding that Dan spoke of from urban renewal to fund some of those and then take our ongoing funding to try to rectify some of these issues that were.
Can I interject?
So it is, at least for me, it isn't dead yet. We
Right.
have to do this right now, but I want to continue to work on it.
Could I make one comment on that? All of the capital outlay that is in the current plan is being paid for either through fund balance or ARPA money, which is one-time money. So there is no ongoing revenue being used for capital outlay currently.
Well, we'll continue to peak at that. Okay, yes.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question. So if we move forward with an approval of this adjustment tonight, then are we tied to these changes, given what you just said, that you're going to take another look and another stab at this? Because we've had extensive conversation about, for instance, the communication specialist, and I'm hesitant to move forward if there's another go at it to see if we can't play around with the numbers some more.
For right now, because of an agreement that we've made, we need to do this. But I want to continue to work with staff on trying to come up with a way to rectify some of these issues. And of course, a few months down the road, it'll be a little less costly to start that. So I'm going to make an effort. I can't make any promises, but I'm not ready to give up on it yet.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, and Vonnie's done a great job, we're not looking to give up the effort. We're just bringing this forward so that administratively I can work with these directors and bring forward the positions that we have in the plan and then hold these, understanding that one of our fund balance looks is a large real estate acquisition that we've been working on really hard. That would pretty much gobble up everything that would have come out of the police department. So we do have that moving part to acquire that great asset so we can use the federal dollars to look to build a building, and that's in process. So my goal here with Vonnie tonight is to say, we'd like to hold these. I have a number of directors that do not like this decision. I need your support. Vonnie needs your support to say we're holding them administratively until we figure out how quick we can fill, what the future looks like, what sales tax is going to do, what liquor tax is going to do, because the plan is move $600,000. So that's the purpose of bringing this.
Go ahead.
So Troy, I think maybe I'm getting caught up on the word remove. Would it be accurate from what I'm hearing? It would say pause in hiring? I mean, there's a difference there.
I hear that, yes. So we would accept that modification for that position. That would be good direction to administration. If we said, right now, we don't see the other 4 positions happening, and these directors all know that, and we would, as a council, like to direct staff to continue to look for a communications person, that would be good direction. I just need your support in confirming that these positions don't make sense, assuming the budget is perfect. The budget is not perfect. We also have relied heavily on income. If we start to back off on income, we do not have any extra dollars. The counterpoint to that, as we've said, is the police department. If they don't fill up, we could be, unfortunately, positively cash flowing because they couldn't find staff, and we do want them filled. So I just, looking for your endorsement of a plan until the plan changes.
I guess the real bottom line to your question is we can always make adjustments to the budget. We're not stuck with anything. It's just a matter of, again, coming back and publicly making that adjustment.
Mr. Mayor, I think what we're hearing, though, cash flow-wise, this year, those positions are not an issue. The ongoing issue is what we're looking at. We don't know what next year is going to look like, but in a budget as large as ours, it seems like the $605,000 that we could find some movement. So I'm hesitant to just go along with not filling those positions. I mean, I think if there was some kind of a counteroffer that maybe we don't hire those positions until January or February, but just to not hire them, I guess I would want a little more information from administration on the budget.
What you could do, you can refashion the motion to ask staff to bring, actually, you can still approve the motion, but then ask staff to come back in January with a report of where we are financially and how we can now, what progress has been made to enable us to hire those positions, something along that line. Dan?
Well, I guess maybe I'm still a little confused. We just passed the budget, and we, every year, I mean, the budget is always out of date as soon as you pass it because there's always unanticipated expenses and unanticipated revenue. And I guess I'm not comfortable with saying, well, gee, we're going to, have staff come back and 3 months take a look at that. Or I guess I would be more comfortable if we, put a pause, formal pause on the hiring for, till the 1st of January. But, boy, I don't want to just give them up either and just to eliminate and, have the default that we are essentially eliminating with a kind of caveat, but we'll come back and take a look. No, I'd rather have a plan. We're going to plan to get them in there January 1st, and then we've got 3 months to figure out and see what's coming from the state. And then, if we have to push back or pare back part of the 5, but, and I guess I'm wondering a bit because, again, the budget amendments we don't usually do those till later. I mean, what is the urgency to do this right now?
The urgency
just-
is to not hire positions. What I'd hate for you to do is hire all these positions, and then next year when we do the budget and there's no way we can fund them, you have to start laying people off. Once you have bodies in those positions, it's a lot uglier to lay them off, so.
Or, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, or we prioritize. Council would help prioritize rather than just say that we would lay people off, so.
Yeah. And Mr. Mayor, and that's what Vani just said is what I brought up a long time ago regarding these positions, is that given the state of the economy, the last thing I want to do is hire 5 people and then lay them off instantly. And I think really what we need to do is we need to help Troy in his leadership here at the city to affirm that the decision to hold these positions is something that would be good at this point in time. I think it would be a wise move. I think it would be prudent, just given the state of the economy. The last thing we want to do is hire someone and then say, whoops, we don't have enough money to keep up this position. We got to let you go. And that's not fair to the employee. It's not fair to the citizens.
Mr. Mayor, I would just comment that I see where you're trying to go with this, and nobody has the crystal ball. We need time to find more money, and it sounds like everybody still wants to work on that. I don't want to see the communications specialist position not filled, and I want to see it left in there. And then I want to trust that we can continue to move forward with conversations on, are there other areas where there can be cuts made in things that we've discussed, and can we review filling the rest of those at a later date, put them in a holding pattern until a later date when more is known. So that's my thoughts on it.
Well, Council, there is an action item before you. What action do you wish to take?
Mr. Mayor, I would make a motion to approve this fiscal year budget adjustment with the caveat that this would just be until January 1st, the first available council meeting after the 1st of January. The council would review whether we could fill some of these positions.
Does that address the difference between removing and holding? Does that need to be addressed?
I should have said pause, not remove. I don't know what I said. All I know is I would like to come back in January when we have a better idea of our mid-year budget and determine if we can pick up some of these positions. And, you know, the IT department, we cannot continue to overlook that. IT runs the whole city. So I want to come back and take another look in January.
So we're talking a hiring freeze till January on what's proposed right now?
Not a hiring freeze.
Not.
Is it possible to make that February, because those state revenues that come in, we don't usually get them until early February, late January?
Certainly, I'd modify
That
my
would
motion
be-
to February.
I'll
See,
second.
what this proposal does is it puts those positions on hold. There is nothing preventing you from bringing those positions back up for discussion at a later date. So that's,
Actually, it's a recommendation, because if we were modifying the budget, it'd be a hearing.
Correct.
So this is just talking, right?
And
Dan?
Direction.
so if I understand kind of from the budget terms, by saying we're going to pause it until February, I mean, what we are saying is right there that that's 4 months of the 12 months that, you know, those 4 months of expense that we thought we had in there, we can remove for this year's budget. And then I appreciate the concern for the ongoing, but for this year, we reduced it by that much for this year's expense, at a minimum. But I have to agree with Dan. I mean, it's just, it is kind of hard to tell, and to see, you know, the state has just reported that, you know, the income tax, the sales tax, the corporate taxes are all coming in under what was projected. They're still, you know, good by a lot of measures, but they were under what they projected. So I think the next quarter is pretty important to see what happens. I mean, we have to balance some prudence with the other stuff we've wanted, so.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second to that motion?
Woody seconded
Yeah, I
it.
second it for
Oh,
discussion.
Sorry, I
It's to
missed
go to
that.
February.
Yeah, with my amendment of February.
Can you read the motion again, please?
Yes, thank you.
Sure. I have a motion by Wood, seconded by McEvers, to approve the fiscal year 2022-23 budget adjustments with the caveat that this action would be reviewed at the first meeting in February, so the council could review filling some of the positions.
Yeah, that would do it.
All those in favor of the motion respond with aye.
Aye.
Those opposed with nay. Motion carries. Need a motion to recess until our joint meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move that we recess to October 24th, 2022 at noon here in the library community room located at 702 East Front Avenue for a joint workshop with the Planning Commission regarding updates to the short-term rental code.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor respond with aye.
Aye.
Opposed with nay. Motion carries. We are recessed until October 24th. Thank you, council.
Indeed.
Are you presenting?